Hey, good morning. Welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Iyun. Today we're learning Maseches Shabbos, Parachaf, Mishnayos Gimel and Dalet. Mishnah Gimel and Dalet talk about animal food. If you have an animal, you have a dog, are you allowed to do malachas or violate the Isra of Muksa when it comes to feeding your animals? On the one hand, you'd say yes. On the other hand, you'd say no, right? You'd say yes because, right, you're allowed to do certain malachas. If something is, right, not designated for Shabbos, I mentioned, right, you could, if it's not pushed away, according to Rabbi Shimon, you could take it and make it edible for yourself on Shabbos because anything is potentially roy for Michael Adam. However, what about for your animals? You're allowed to do it for your animals. So Mishnah Gimel says, in terms of the malacha of borer, right, that's what it talks about primarily, the malacha of borer, you're not allowed to do it unless it's a davar she'eino miskaven. It might not be separated, right? You're talking about separating rocks from animal food or waste from animal food. So if it's for sure going to be separated, right? You're gonna dunk the animal food in water to remove the dirt. You can't do that. However, if you put it in a basket, it might fall. If it's davar she'eino miskaven, it's not a problem. But it's clear from the Mishnah that you can't do borer for your animals. Now, for a person, you could do borer, right? Obviously, we're all familiar with on Shabbos. The only way to do borer for your food, it has to have three conditions. It has to be big yad. You can't do it with a kli. You can't do it with a utensil. It has to be with your hand. It has to be ocham dok solas. It has to be you're taking the good from the bad. And it has to be miyad. It has to be you're doing it relatively right before you're going to eat, right? Within a half an hour of eating, something like that most poskim say. You need those category those stipulations. However, once you have those things, borer is mutter. Now the question is, why is borer mutter by people for making your food mutter? It is borer. You are separating something from something else. You are separating the good from the bad. It is borer. Why is it mutter on these conditions? The reason I believe the three conditions are mutter for a person is because borer in that fashion is considered not a commercial activity. When you do it with your hands, miyad, and ocham dok psolas, that's the derech achil, like a lot of Muslims say. It's a way of eating. That's a personal use, right? It's a personal use. It's not a commercial type of borer. Commercial, the only types of malacha that job is a business like type of borer. So that's where we come. So for a personal use, that's okay. But now we come to a person's animals, right? Even if he's doing a small scale borer for one animal, he wants to dip a little bit of his karshinim, his animal food, or Mishnah Dalet, he wants to move a little bit of his straw, right? Even for muksa, which is only the rabbanon. But for his animals, right? Do we say that's something that's a personal use, and therefore muksa is the halach of muksa doesn't apply anymore? Or do we say and malach of borer would be okay on a limited basis for some of your animals? Or do we say it's always a commercial activity? So the Gemara seems to imply it's machlokes and Mishnah Dalet between Rabbi Dosa and the Chacham. Rabbi Dosa seems to say that for your animals, it's a personal use, so you could do these things. Muksa is lifted in this case. Maybe even borer under certain circumstances, right? Mishnah Gimel says borer is not allowed. Maybe under certain circumstances when you're doing like for a human, right? Ocham b'tal psolas, and when you're doing biyad and miyad, maybe it's mutter. But we pass on the chamim that when you're using for your animals, right? Why do you need to feed your animals, right? If you don't feed them for one day, they're not going to die. The reason your animals you're doing it is, your animals are either used to work your field or they're used because in the future you want to sell the meat or you want to have a large business of meat from them. So it's feeding your animals is always a commercial activity according to the Rabbanan. And since it's always a commercial activity, therefore the malachas are not relaxed. Even if you do it in a way that would be considered derech achila for the animals, but that's what the Rabbanan teach you. That even muksa, which is a Mishnah Dal, which is only the Rabbanan, nonetheless for animals, it's always considered a commercial purpose for if you have a flock. Now, if you have a pet, I would say it's different. I don't think these Mishnayos are talking about when you have a flock, when you have a big farm. If you only have one pet, a parrot or something like that, I would say again, if you do a derech achila, right, the way it's fit for a human, I would say for a small parrot or something like that, or for your goldfish or something like that, where it's obviously a personal use, it's not for a commercial purpose, I would say those things are mutter. That's the way I would assume. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.